And we are Dicejunkies, and we have a very special episode today. We have Mr. Dominic Pace with us, which he has a pretty long list of resume to his titles, but I think the biggest one that you're known for is Gekko the Bounty Hunter in the Mandalorian series. Dominic, thank you very much for joining us. We appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you so much. Hello to all your listeners, and appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we'll just dive right on into it. You were in chapters 1 and chapters 3 in Mandalorian season 1, and your character Gekko, which I'm going to have a picture right below your image here. I have to say is one of the more interesting aliens that I've seen come out of the Mandalorian. I think that there's a lot in headcanon that you could possibly do with your character. What can you tell us about your time playing as Gekko?
Well, just to take you back to 1980, I grew up in Ossining, New York, about 40 minutes north of New York City. A lifelong fan. The reason I always wanted to get into acting was because of the magic of those amazing 1980 films. When you had George Lucas, Steven Spielberg, Robert Zemeckis, James Cameron. My first playset was a Cantina playset. Thanks so much for the mention of my IMDb and the resume, of course. Extensive resume, but the whole reason I wanted to get in was for the adventure, for the action. I've always been a blue-collar actor, so more or less, I take not only the guest stars, the co-stars, a few recurring roles. I got lucky with NBC Superstore, which was a successful show starring America Ferrera. But at the same time, I'll do second team work of prosthetics. I doubled for Frankenstein on Van Helsing. I was in Bright with Will Smith. I also did Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. A couple of times. Prosthetics isn't the greatest talent, but also at the same time, they want somebody who's patient, who knows blocking, and somebody who's professional. I cannot tell you what a dream come true it was to find out. The makeup artist was Brian Sipe, who created Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy. He has an extensive resume with Marvel, with DC, with Disney, you name it. The guy is just an absolute genius. And I did a makeup test for him over 6 hours for one day. He didn't mention what the project was, but on the day that I found out what it was, he said, look, you were so patient. I want to give you the most extensive makeup out of the 25 second team bounty hunters for episode 1 and 3. Being a lifelong Star Wars fan, we're familiar with that 1985 series, and the most beautiful proverb, or I think lesson within the Star Wars universe, is that there are no small parts. We go back to Boba Fett, we go back to Forlom and Zuckuss, to where literally you have less than 1 minute screen time. So while I was filming for 10 days, just racing through my head was the potential, already having a pretty solid resume, but also being a passionate Star Wars fan, feeling that I would be able to reach out to the fan base in many ways. Had obviously no idea, just like anyone else, of obviously the unfortunate COVID, but we turned it into something to where we were able to not only promote the character, but at the same time help small business and to support the local Star Wars charities the best that we can.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. That's something I was going to get into. And so you're on your tour right now to help small business. And one of the things we at Dicejunkies have always been very vocal about is to always support your local comic shop. We have a local comic shop here in Jackson called Van's Comics and Games, and we're always giving them free publicity. And you're doing a little bit more than give them free publicity. You're actually going to local comic shops, but you're also giving back. So tell us a little bit about what you're working on.
Absolutely. I believe there's so many parallels to the working actor. Look, Hollywood has a certain image of this sort of hoity-toity, pretentious sort of, the 1% who make millions and millions of dollars, and then they do Zooms letting everybody know that they're just like us. That's not the case. There's a lot of us out there that are literally just trying to get it done, trying to work. And so for me, the bigger connection is not the superheroes stars, but it's more of the working man and the working woman. I've been at this for 25 years. I can't tell you how proud I am to have waited tables for 8 years. I've driven Uber. I've worked for moving companies, 100-degree sun, everything that I have to do in order to support my family. But the parallel that ended up happening was when they said that certain businesses were essential and some were non-essential. In my opinion, anyone who gets up in the morning and works hard and holds himself accountable. We hear a lot of excuses in society this day and age. The most important thing is we need to put it on ourselves. I've got two sons that are 16 and 13 years old. The biggest lesson that I could teach teach them is to get out there and get it done yourself. And the one beautiful lesson I feel it with Gekko is that I literally had less than 1 minute screen time. This is not about being a big star of The Mandalorian, but more of a message. And I think Dave Filoni focuses on this in his Proverbs before the Clone Wars, before Rebels, in regards to believing in yourself. And I hope that what history will tell with Gekko is that with small things, sometimes great things can happen. I cut out the middleman in terms of the agents. There were a lot of them promising me, I earn my 15%. I go above and beyond for you. But what these agents do, no offense, is they're milking the small comic book store. They're milking the convention. You don't see any of that money. And then also at the same time, you're giving them a percentage. So I went straight to the comic book stores. I said, look, I'm not a big star, but at the same time, if it helps you, for me to be there, I want to give you 15% of whatever autograph sales I make. For some of them, I appreciate a room the night before, but ultimately we were able to raise over $25,000 last year for over 50 comic book stores, and also at the same time about close to $5,000 for the charitable organizations there through Star Wars. They made me an honorary member of the 501st Legion, the Mandalorian Mercs, the Rebel Legion. I can't tell you how honored I am to give back to the community. But also at the same time, we're here in the middle of Texas, in the middle of nowhere. We're about to embark on about 40 to 50 different stores there over the next 2.5 months. And I'm very proud to announce that Lucasfilm has blessed me with my first licensed piece. That will be late December, early January, which would not have happened had we not been so ambitious.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've actually met.
Just give me 1 second. I'm going to let you run. I know you got a lot of things in your head. But going back to what you said about your merchandising piece, that wouldn't be the Funko Pops that we see running around, is it?
Funko loves the character. They unfortunately, there's a very, look, I mean, the one beautiful thing, and I think how I've connected with the fans is literally calling a spade a spade. The old saying of like being just upfront and honest. Funko loves it, but also at the same time, what it is that you have to have international appeal with Funko Pop, especially during COVID. They were bringing all their A-list cargo from China, which was very limited. So they loved the character. They were kind of on the fence, but the issue is that Gekko would not do well internationally. This is another very popular brand. It's been gaining steam. They have licensing with Marvel and DC as well. And it's also very symbolic. And I cannot tell you how excited I am to make that announcement come December, because again, this was something that was literally, I think, historic, at least within the Star Wars universe, as far as a performer themselves self-motivating the character into existence, into canon. And hopefully we'll see a lot more of him from obviously, hopefully this one small step, which will hopefully be the gateway to hopefully Black Series, Funko Pop, hopefully the 3.75 inch and many, many more.
I can't wait. I'm gonna let Q go ahead and get his questions in. It'll might be a minute.
Sure.
I was just gonna comment that you said you become an honorary member of the 501st and the the Mandalorian Mercs, and we've actually met them several times back before the COVID, and we talked with them. So I just was familiar with those two groups, and they're awesome. And that's just really cool because they didn't give us honorary anything. So you've already beat us. Like we have met them several times. They wouldn't even give me a helmet. I was like, come on, I don't get a helmet.
You talk about doing work for the community. These people literally, I mean, the heat in the Midwest and the Deep South. Gets up there towards 100 plus. Imagine wearing a stormtrooper outfit. Imagine wearing a Darth Vader outfit, all for the benefit of perhaps a sick kid at a hospital. I always, my heart goes out to every social worker in this country in terms of having a strong heart, but also to pour that over into charity in terms of showing up at these hospitals, knowing maybe the kid isn't going to make it, and to just be strong and to be there for them. It really is the inspiration as to why I'm working so hard to want to not only be a part of the Star Wars universe, but also their universe as well here on Earth, which I think is a million times more effective than any type of Hollywood accolade will receive. These people are absolutely amazing, and they show up almost at every event. They're completely in costume, there to support me every single way. And again, let's call it what it is. It means so much more to me in that we are not a big star of The Mandalorian, but just the fact that they come out of the goodness of their heart. I can't do enough for them, and I can't do enough for community as a way of saying thank you, because I would not exist without that popularity from their organizations as well as the fan base.
Well, hey, I believe Blood Axe can back me on this. That you keep saying that, but that you're not the star. Maybe not yet, but you'll be surprised. Some of my favorite characters have never been on a big screen. Like like I was talking about Quinlan Voss being a very popular, like my favorite Jedi, and
Yeah,
even you probably don't know who I'm talking about.
vaguely, yes.
And
Yeah,
then like HK-47, a character from just one game, well two, is like my favorite droid. So it's like if what you're doing may be the explosive. I mean, heck, technically Boba Fett was the guy who was supposed to fall in the pit,
yeah,
and
yeah.
now like he became celebrated, and when he came back, everybody was like, "It's Boba Fett," and I'm like, and if you go back to the movie, like if you go back to figure out who he is and go by the first movie, you'll be like, "Wait, that's Boba Fett."
Yeah.
So
And,
keep it
and
up,
you
man.
bring
And
you bring up an amazing point, because I think there is something very appealing in regards to um, little, just sort of the anonymity, of a character, to where you want to know where he came from and where he's going, especially when you have a one of a kind species like Gekko. The point of this comic, we can get candid here. I almost bit off a little bit more than I can chew. I'm sure you guys are familiar with copyright and Disney, etc. But the point of the comic and the fan fiction comic was to sort of keep adding to that mystery so that we can become maybe that Quinlan Voss, to where it motivates them. An article came out yesterday, and I'll tell you, it's weird because I don't have a publicist, but I felt like it was almost motivated from Disney, which I thought was just such a beautiful, beautiful gesture to them right before my tour, because this could have been shut down very quickly. But we're very hopeful. I am doing everything I can on all cylinders to show my commitment as a performer, and also at the same time to get as involved as possible with all the organizations, and also the podcast and the fans, to be as approachable as possible. So I greatly appreciate all the support, and hopefully, yeah, we'll be part of that amazing lore, to where again, less is more.
And trust me, the comic books are where it's at. Like I said, the expanded universe didn't make it the big screen, but if you walk up to a hardcore fan, they know more about that. So you'll probably grow faster. You will put it like this: you'll get a more loyal fan base there than anywhere else. People that'll stick with you, the whole way. So I think it's the way to go. Man, if I had a choice,
That was the initial plan. To be honest with you, there's a great comic book called Star Wars Marvels. It's Marvel's Bounty Hunters, and there's an amazing editor by the name of Ethan Sachs, as well as Paolo Villanelli, who's an amazing artist over there. They wanted Gekko. The problem was that LFL wanted to just sort of keep the kibosh on all Star Wars characters. So because I developed such a solid fan base last year, they said, well, look, since that fell through and Marvel kind of put it on the back burner, they said, well, look, we'll circle back to this maybe about 6 months or so and see if maybe we can get you in there. Because I said, look, I have the base out there. But I had fans that suggest a fan fiction comic because we did so well with the stores. Well, why don't you just sell your autograph? You don't sell the comic. I'm proud to say that LFL reached out a couple of weeks ago, and they said, look, we're really excited about what you've done and what you're doing. Keep doing it. The only thing is, out of respect to us, if you can just give the comic away. And so proud to announce that over all this entire tour over the next 2.5 months, it really be worth the fans' worth their while in terms of attending, because just the purchase of a $25 signed photo, I'm giving the comic away for free, just to honor their wishes. And I'm just so grateful that we're on their radar now.
awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
And I will say that I listen to Rebel Voice Radio, have for years.
Yeah, great guy.
And they have a lot. Thank you. They have a lot of interviews, and you are probably the most passionate out of everyone that I've listened to. And that's one of the reasons why I reached out to you, is because of your passion for not only Star Wars, which matches, a lot of the fans' passions, but your passion for the character that you play. It's like you are going out of your way to try to take Gekko as far as you possibly could go.
Yeah, and there's a beautiful reason for that, and I think a lot of those born in the 70s, a lot of Gen Xers and older can understand this. Again, going back to explaining my love of the 1980s films of Goonies and Stand By Me, Back to the Future. I came, I'm a son of an Italian immigrant, and I often will play the stereotype, which, to be honest, I don't mind. I have a great film right now. It's on Anonymous. It's called Anonymous Killers. I star on it on Amazon. I play a cop and a guard in probably every other film. As we know, there's a lot of turmoil right now and a lot of subjective issues in our country. For me, it's always been about that level of escapism that we enjoyed in that theater in 1982, 1983, 84. I always remember the beginning of Up, when the old man is a young boy and he's sitting in that movie theater and he's watching his hero on screen. And for me, there were so many examples of that in terms of film. So that is really the motivation. Again, almost 100 TV shows. But for me, if I were to brand one thing, it's to want to get into that sci-fi world, specifically Star Wars, specifically a bounty hunter, and specifically a one of a kind that has been literally catered to me. And also, I think a lot of the fan guys, have my stature, have my size. So I just see the potential of being where the sky will be the limit. So that's where we're going at it as hard as we can. And they've sort of given me a little bit of the baton to run with it. And we're going to do everything we can to put ourselves on the map there.
I love that you said the escapism, because that's one thing that I can definitely say that The Mandalorian does for me as a hardcore Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
I remember watching A New Hope on HBO, because actually we're the same age. You turned 46 in September. I just turned 46.
Yeah.
So
I'm the youngest one here. Oh, finally.
Yeah.
It's
I
rare.
was a little too young to see Star Wars in the theater, and I missed Empire, but I did see Jedi in the theater. Yeah. But I remember watching Star Wars on HBO. And just every time it came on, I would look in the TV guide. When's coming on again? Because this is before VCRs. But the escapism, and that's something that you guys did so well in The Mandalorian that I think that a lot of Hollywood should really reconsider, because I know a lot of there's a place and a purpose for everything. I'm not getting into politics, and I promise Quinn and Mark I wouldn't do that. So I will back off.
You
that
break
ledge.
it all the time.
I know.
Break that promise.
But, I do like the escapism that you guys give, because it does. I don't care what gender you are or anything else. When you're playing an alien in Star Wars, you can be or do anything, and I think that's the ultimate way to be, to give the fans something fresh, something new, something unique. And I was thinking about this, and I'm going to turn it over to you to respond, and then Quinn. But one thing that I thought of, and I don't know if this has been brought up or not, but Star Wars 1313 has always been in the back of my mind. And that, I think, would be a perfect nesting ground for Gekko and some of the other bounty hunters to have like a series of, bounty missions, or part of an underground guild on Nar Shaddaa or one of the other planets. That, I think, would be a perfect home for Gekko. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, it really is that point in terms of, like, say you're trying to try out for the NFL. As much as, you might be from Bama and say, hey, I want to, definitely want to play for the Saints. It's one of those things to where you can't, unless you're, Peyton Manning, it's hard to be, to purposefully get placed in a certain place. What I'm doing is trying to offer them the options in terms of the literal sense of comics. Or video games or animation, to where, whatever they see, I'm game. Of course, Book of Boba, I think, is going to be heavily focused on that. The issue with me is that we literally came, it's like being on single A ball, to where they had zero expectations. So we're literally starting from ground zero. We started from ground zero. I think we're off the air by now, or up in the air. But it's one of those things to where it has to come from them. But I'm game for anything, because I'll tell you, it's just been such a joy. Jeremy Bulloch, God rest his soul, obviously the gentleman who played Boba Fett, as well as Alan Harris, who just passed away about a year and a half ago. They were just so personable to the Star Wars fan base. I want to follow in their footsteps. And again, the one thing I love, again, going back to the whole reason we got into entertainment, is not only the positivity on screen, where you help people from all walks of life, all views on politics and social issues escape, and also at the same time to be there and to make a positive difference within a community, to where you're able to have a powerful impact, because obviously Star Wars is so popular all over the world. So fingers crossed, but hopefully even something rare and random like that, I would love to lead that up. But again, the ball is in their court, just like the NFL or Major League Baseball. They say, hey, you're going to the Baltimore Orioles? Well, sign me up. I guess I'm gonna start wearing my orange hat.
Well, like I said, I'm really looking forward to it, because you've hit a lot of really good points of having a positive relationship with the fan base. To me, is so important, regardless of what character you're playing. A good villain, hero, background character, main character. The biggest thing is that interaction with people and treating your fans well will always lead you to the path to success. And when it comes to the Mandalorian, I had to go back, because Unfortunately, I had to rewind because y'all say something and then you'll go, and I had to be like, I gotta rewind it. But you brought up like, you know, the escapism, and for me especially because like Blood Accident had never watched Lone Wolf and Cub, and I'm a Texan, so like I watched Lone Wolf Cub, I watched those old westerns, so I'm sitting here in the style of this. When I was sitting with Zeno over there, he turned his mic off. He lets us run, but he was just he was looking at me because I was just so excited because I said, "This is the kind of stuff I used to watch as a kid." I said, you notice how he's not talking because actions speak louder than words. You know, and I was just calling out the tropes.
Yeah. It was such a beautiful dynamic. And again, I mean, you know, of course, Lucas inspired by a lot of the Far East cinema there as well, Kurosawa, to where you have those deep depths of so many different meanings, so many parallels. I always feel like I equate the bounty hunter to the working man and to the working woman trying to figure out where your next job is going to be. So it's always great when they have that depth of something like, you know, Lone Wolf and Cub, and then also of a lot of the Kurosawa movies, to where you have that deep mythology and a deeper meaning where you're able to connect and to touch the audience in such a beautiful way.
Well, I want to see what your character. You got me really curious because that makes me wonder what he's going to be like. I'm like, when he gets his comic, because people that don't understand, that haven't watched that, don't understand that they may just see gruff bounty hunter. Like, no, there's a lot of different personalities. There's a lot of different little things that differ how a person reacts to the situation, and I would love to see that play out. So I hope when the comic book's going to follow that old West style of you know, because I like a nice, not clean character. You know, they got edge to them. You know, you don't have to be a Boy Scout, because even Lone Wolf, he may have protected his kid, but he was not fair. He was dirty. He had guns hitting in, like, you know, he was like, look, I'm gonna win no matter what. And I like that about him, that he was not your clean cut. He was like, I'm walking out of here, and all of you are going to be dead, and I don't care what I have to do to make that happen. And I kind of feel like that's where, looking at your face, I think you're going like, that's kind of where your guy, I think he's going to be like, I'm going to be the last guy standing. I don't care what I got to do.
Well, over the last couple of years, you know, the fans, as well as some that have been semi-canon, have kind of teamed up in terms of creating a backstory for Gekko. The first and foremost, because there were 25 bounty hunters, I was one of the first at the prop table, and I picked the biggest blaster. My grandfather, he proudly served in World War II. He's a member of the 4th Infantry, and the biggest thing that scared him, and I have a point here, was the Germans had this missile called the Screaming Mimmies. And the one thing for me, because he has this big blaster with this big paintball canister in the back, I mean, at least in the real world, I'd love to believe that his blaster not only has more power, and I would love to have that attribute added to some of the video games, but also a different sound. I would love to see it have a different sound. Now, the gauntlets that he wears actually were seen in Solo, the movie, by the Pike Sentinels. So just like Beskar is priceless for so many warriors within the Star Wars universe, I'd like to believe that these gauntlets do something special since they are acquired not only by Gekko, but also so coveted by the Pike Sentinels. With the mask, I believe that there are the majority of planets that is needed other than his home planet. And then in terms of Demeter, I always go back to the greater choice is not just evil and demeaning, even though I equate him to sort of having the size of Jason from Friday the 13th, to where he has a tremendous amount of power, but little in agility. But at the same time, just having a little bit of empathy with him, as opposed to just evil and demeaning, because there are better choices. There's a better storyline with these bounty hunters, as we're going to see in the Book of Boba, to where you're indifferent with certain things. And I think we're able to relate to humans that way, right? We sometimes make good choices, and we sometimes make bad choices, or we sometimes have to work for who we have to work for because we got to get that paper. So I'd love to believe that he's got that a little bit of ambiguity to him to add to the depth of him, combined with the blaster, combined with the really cool gauntlets, not to mention 6'4", 265 pounds. I think that's a pretty awesome presence, other than IG-88. And Clancy, who was in episode 5 of season 1, I think that's a pretty powerful presence for a bounty hunter there.
Now, I'm going to step on a place that may be taboo, so if you see me, don't punch me for asking.
No.
But I am a He-Man fan.
Oh, yes.
And Gekko does resemble a character. I just wondered if there was any inspiration on any end. Don't get me wrong. I owned Skunkor. I loved Skunkor. And you want to know what it was? It's because, well, much like in nature, the white stripe, it's intimidating. Like, I've always thought the black with the white stripe is very intimidating. And when I saw him, I was going like, this looks like the gritty, dark, rated R version of a live action He-Man where Skunkor kills the crap out of people. And like, this is dangerous.
Two good things with that point. Number one, you get people talking, which I don't mind at all. The second one, the one way I would love to parlay this after, we end up hopefully becoming solidified in canon, is we have a lot of troubled youth. I remember just seeing that Netflix show called Bully, and I can't tell you how frustrated I was because it was made about 6-7 years ago. So I don't know where those kids are today. We're going to be going up to Sioux City, Iowa, and I would have done anything I could to have reached out to this kid who was bullied horribly in high school. The one thing that I love about Stinkor and Gekko is that, look, some of us have our own different look. We're all unique in our own way. But just similar to the way that I am proudly walking through this country and representing my character, I hope that there will be a certain day where the young adults will be inspired by, sometimes, you don't look, like Thor, you don't look like He-Man, but at the same time, you're proud of your own uniqueness, your own individuality. So I'm hoping to drill that lesson through to a lot of kids over the course of my career, and hopefully through the Star Wars universe, with the fact that being different is okay. And it's okay to walk proud, even if you walk alone, with sometimes having sort of a weird and odd look to you. So I'm hoping, and like I said, combining it with other characters as far as the comparisons, it's like Kanye West. Let them talk, because I think the more the merrier in terms of getting him into a more solid canon there.
Like I said, that won't lie. That was what was my first appeal because, like I said, my first thought is, man, I want to see him on He-Man, but he's just killing like the other guy. Because like I said, it's like the rated R version of it. I was just like, but that opened the door. It's the reason that the character stood out and made me want to see more, because I was just like, wow, I want to know what he does to people. Like, he looks like he does mean things to people, and I want to see it because I got a dark side. And
well, they put me right next to Grief Karga, and if you take a step back and say, hey, Grief Karga is the head of the guild, and this is a major standoff for a very expensive bounty. That's got to mean something within the guild as to why they would have had Gekko right next to Karga. So we're hoping they expand on that as well. Again, the greatest news ever is that we have their attention all through this entire tour. So I just couldn't be more proud in terms of showing them exactly what I got.
You're doing the right thing. Hey, look, and I've got one positive. And I've got an ultimate positive. If they could put Darth Maul back together after he got cut in half and fell in the pit, they can fix a hole in the chest. That's all I'm saying. Like, I mean, he got cut in half, fell into a, and hey, we're not even talking about the Emperor. Like, I mean, the whole place blew up, and he's just like, I'm fine. So I think it would be great that if you pull this off, you get them to the point where in some stinger, there's like the Bacta tank or something, and you just see like you see Gekko in there getting patched up.
Yes. Well, I mean, the one great thing is you didn't see him get killed. So, I mean, that alone, the possibilities could be endless. So, I mean, and again, as you can see with Maul and also with obviously the Emperor, etc., and Boba, there is no immediate ultimate
Boba
death, except for Natalie Portman for Sadness. But other than that, so you can always come back in Star Wars.
There you go.
One thing about Star Wars that I've always enjoyed is it's sci-fantasy and not science fiction. And in science fantasy, you can do anything. We don't question Darth Maul. We don't question the fact that
I do, but I can't. They don't listen to me.
Back in the Kenobi series, we didn't question him in Solo. So I mean, we just go with it because it's fantasy. But I really would like to see what they could do with some of these characters that are standing out in future franchises. Because we know they've got Rangers of the New Republic, they've got the Acolyte, the Cassian Andor series, but I'm sure they've got things planned out for the next 10 years. So you've got someone who's hardworking, passionate, willing, dedicated, wants to do it. That says a lot compared to some people is that, well, you didn't give me a job just because I want one. No, you're busting your buns to be able to do something with the character that you're passionate about. Heck, I want to give you a job right now anyway.
No,
Well,
I
that's what we can
appreciate you.
hype.
Like I said, we're paving the way also for my sons as well. I was really disappointed. Again, I don't mean to get political or social, but the education system, they said a few things this year, which as a father was absolutely unacceptable. Look, I think that we still have to pave our own way in this world. And just like you said, I don't care what, I come from you as in terms of whatever species, whatever gender, etc. If you're there and you're willing to work hard, and you're willing to say, hey, I'm willing to listen and hustle and to take pride in this company, I would imagine 95% of corporations and companies are going to give you an opportunity. So for me, I woke up one morning and, it was one of these things to where it said, well, if you're this, unfortunately, you're set back here. And if you're this, you're set back here. And I said, absolutely not, unacceptable. You can't generalize like that. I know people that are above me that have succeeded because they worked harder. I was up for Drogo in Game of Thrones, but let me tell you a great story about that. I'm Italian. I love to have a little pasta. If I ever meet you guys, we're going to go for some beers. We're going to have some of those appetizers, everything else. Well, the flip side to that is I'm not in the gym for 6 hours busting my butt. So how can I make excuses that I didn't get the part when Jason Momoa is there for 6-7 hours? So it's the same thing in terms of accountability and hard work. And we're hopefully going to set that example and hopefully have a really happy ending in many years to come here.
We're going to drink something harder than beer, but I'm up for that. You come to town, I'm going to tell you, like, I don't do sissy beer. I don't drink only things beer above. We start above beer, but it's all right. You can have a beer with Zeno. When you're ready to really drink, I'll be there.
Have Vans reach out to me. I have after Huntsville, Alabama, I have a window there. So I'm heading over to Amarillo, Texas. It could work out. So definitely reach out to them. It's a really simple agreement of just giving them 15%. Appreciate a night at a hotel, but it's not mandatory if some of them are going through a hard time. But have them reach out if I have one day free there.
Yeah. Zeno says yes, and you don't know us. Like, we'll physically go threaten them. And I'm not scared to say this. They know. Like, we will go up to them and be like, yo, you're going to get this guy or else.
It's been a really easy formula with advertising too, which is just a Facebook event, because they're letting their audience know. I let my audience know. And again, I mean, it's not like we need to be Ray Park. I'm happy with 20, 30 people, at a showing, or even just being there to continue on to promote the brand there. So yeah, there's one date in August. I can't swear by the exact date. It might be 14th. To where I went to one place in Arkansas last year, and I just wanted to say it was just such a slow. I think it's God bless the religion in the South, but it was on a Sunday, so yes. It was really difficult getting people out. But I said, well, let me switch it up this year.
Well, you see, in the South we go to church.
There's another opportunity.
Yeah. See, in the South we go to church, and then we go eat after that.
Yes.
And then after that, it's like football. So it's
yes.
So it's just a pattern.
There wasn't room for Dominic Pace last year.
So I will definitely share your Twitter, your Instagram, and your Facebook pages on our YouTube channel. I know your schedule is also on your Twitter feed, but that way everyone can follow what's going on with you and your tour and with Gekko going forward. Yeah. Pizza's here. I'll definitely.
Just forgive me. Just a connection to Mississippi. It was very inspirational to take my son to Tupelo there last year. Again, from very humble beginnings there. It was a little, box house there that were held, and it was really cool to drive through that town and see where one of the most legendary artists and human beings in our country began from there. So that was really awesome. Hats off to Mississippi there.
We got a couple spots like that. Yeah. We got a couple of them there.
We have a couple of winners.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like we crank out one like every century or so.
Yeah.
No. Yeah.
Isn't Bo Jackson's there, from there too? Yeah, Bo.
Yeah. Jerry Rice is from Mississippi as well. So yeah, we got some sports celebrities and Elvis obviously, and so I do want to switch gears for a second, but is there anything else? I do have a question about Gekko, and just for my curiosity, do you have any kind of theories what his facial apparatus is all about? Is it like a breathing apparatus? What are your thoughts on that, or do you have any theories?
Well, interesting story. Let me just take you also to his head. So originally there were 2 bumps, and not to have thrown my weight around, but the reason it was nicknamed Gekko and it wasn't anything else was because the original model actually had bumps similar to a gecko. Right after the screen test, I went over to the makeup artist and I said, look, have you ever seen Little Nicky? I said, because I said, this is really borderline having boobs on my head. I said, now, if it was an emperor hearing, a Senate hearing, I think that he would have maybe something more elongated and rounded out. I said, but if he is a menacing bounty hunter, I said, we need to have horns. I was suggesting a Zabrak-like style, but he basically indented the bumps and created the 4 horns. As far as the mask, again, I would just say maybe 90% of the planets, he needs that in order to survive, in order to breathe, just to balance out the levels. I actually had the opportunity to go on day 1 without the mask and to set. And I was the last one in the cantina for episode 1. And I politely asked wardrobe, I said, can you please find that mask? Because for me, Star Wars characters, and the great Star Wars figures are all about those detail layers where we can add a story to them. And even as an actor, where you can start adding more and more specific details, I did not want to go without that mask. So I think it's a pretty unique trait with him. I would rather him never take it off. Maybe, I mean, unless he had his own, storyline, or we, branch off into his own comic for good. But ultimately, I think it just is such a great accessory for many Star Wars characters. But now, hopefully, the next generation with Gekko as a kick-ass bounty hunter there.
Yeah, you set me up now, because now I got to say, I agree. I believe that people should keep the mask on. And I'll leave on that. That's all I'm saying. I ain't going over. All I'm saying is they look better with the mask on. It keeps the mystery. So close this out there.
Yeah, actually, one of the things I think would be really cool is if Gekko went back to his home planet, and that's when he took it off.
Yes. Yeah. The only thing is, I just don't want to creep out the kids with any kind of a. You remember that guy who was such a famous actor from Australia, where he tells Obi-Wan they are watching you, but with those teeth. I just don't want it to be to where he has this very freakish face to where obviously it's not good for the kids. But yeah, I mean that would be pretty awesome without question. But let's first just get within the circle of canon. Let's get this license piece out in December, January, and come back in August to Hollywood, and hopefully we'll have a lot of good things waiting for us there.
Don't worry, there's plenty of room for it. There's plenty of room for Gekko.
Yeah. Oh, did you ever get your EV-99?
Yes, I did. I actually, it's so funny because my wife called me. She says, it came in the mail. It's a little scratched up. And I said, because I'm not paying more than $225, which I ended up paying because a mint condition EV-99 can get up there of like $500, $550. And as much as I wanted, it's got some scratchings on the right arm, but it's just ultimately for my kids. There's a backdrop in Ohio to where they have the whole kind of carded back for all 96 figures, and then I'm going to get a custom frame at Michael's with the shelves and maybe some lights. It's going to be gorgeous. I can't wait to share with you guys. That'll be in the fall there and such. But yeah, finally got it, but I got it a little scratched up because I just could not get myself, even with Luke Stormtrooper, the loose one, I got a replica helmet figure because there's, again, $450, $500. We're all still struggling here through the pandemic, so it just couldn't do it.
I'm the same way. I collect Funko Pops, which is why I asked you about the Gekko Funko earlier. And
there is a gentleman who makes custom Funko. There's tremendous Black Series Funko Pop or mini Legos, a Big Kid Bricks in Indiana. You can get one. It's just it's not official. It's a custom one. A gentleman in Oregon.
Yeah, and that actually is a good idea, but I didn't know they actually made customs like that. But I did wait out and finally find a Han Solo Stormtrooper, which was from Emerald City Comic Con. I think it was 2013.
Okay.
They were going for like $450, and I got it for $200. I mean, it just took me to wait it out. But yeah, I'm the same way because I've got 4 boys, and so they're expensive, and yeah, we're all working men here. None of us are living in these big $1 million mansions. So but yeah, it is. I did want to circle back around real quick before I jumped into my next question. That I do think it's really cool that you're taking on the mantra that Tamora Morrison echoed as Jango Fett, and the thing is, Boba Fett is just a simple man trying to make your way through the universe, and that sounds like what you're trying to do with Gekko.
Yeah, and like I said, what a beautiful message that is. It's funny. Rebel Force Radio was asking me, how did you get through the pandemic? And I said, well, it's very similar to actually make a great Disney movie or documentary in terms of like Venom, to where, you sort of have Gekko talking to you, because ultimately, and this is so similar to so many men, so many women during the pandemic. I mean, granted, God bless the people who can live off the unemployment check and just, put it in first gear. But for us, I mean, literally, we had to find a way. And what other beautiful parallel to a Star Wars bounty hunter than what a lot of us had to do, and that was find a way. And from it sort of manifested this campaign where there was no acting work at all. It was one guy for a Netflix movie. He snuck the movie in, and he had to do all this shady stuff under the table. I ended up performing in that one with Jason Patric. But even that, it was just under the table payment, which was not our normal salary, our normal day rate.
Right.
So we had to find a way. But I think there's a fun movie in there, similar to Venom, to where, again, you're going back and forth with Gekko talking to you here on Earth on how to get this done. And to make him as powerful as possible there. So that's what we did. We got it done, and how beautiful it is. I hope the other lesson is, you can build yourself up, but at the same time, you can build others up at the same time, with yourself there. So it was just such a great gesture, I felt, on my part, but also it reciprocated with the fan base as well as all the comic book stores, which invited me back this year.
That is so rare too, because most people are like, "What can you give me?" And you're more, "What can I give you?"
Yeah.
So,
I have a tattoo there, Gekko.
Nice.
And I always said, I would like to do one here. I know you're saying, and I appreciate the compliment that, we are significant in the Star Wars universe. But for me personally, I would love to do a yin and a yang with the fan base, charitable organizations, the businesses, and with Gekko, in that he would not have existed. I mean, look, I know with the Star Wars universe, everyone is special, but being in, on many shows over the last 20 years or so, if you're a secondary character, you have no life, no opportunity at all. So you can't imagine how grateful I am to have had this opportunity through the pandemic, to be able to support my family and also at the same time to support others, which would not have been possible without people believing in side characters in the Star Wars universe. It's an absolute miracle, again, compared to other shows to where you wouldn't see the light of day. I've had major guest stars on TV shows where it doesn't matter unless you're one of the series regulars, So it's really, Star Wars is very special in that regard.
It is, and a lot of people have made living as a background character in conventions.
Yes.
Because Jeremy Bulloch, you didn't really know a lot about the man. You just knew the character, and because he was so famous, so he got to do a lot of cons. And we did a nice little tribute to him the Sunday after he passed. Actually, my wife got me an autographed Boba Fett helmet that he had signed a couple years ago for Christmas last year, and he had passed right before Christmas. And Boba Fett has always been a special character to me because he was mysterious, and you didn't know a lot about the man behind the mask. And I think Gekko has a very similar mysterious aura about him. And Boba Fett started off as a background character in a cartoon for a couple of minutes, and next thing you know, we're now doing a whole TV series around him. So you can never say never, especially with someone with your passion.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Oh, you're very welcome. Do you have anything else before I start diving into the Buffyverse?
Oh, no, not at all. No, just appreciate everyone's support on this tour. Obviously going to be in San Antonio this Saturday and then Corpus Christi. And again, I appreciate everyone checking out the social media handles, just where we'll be heading, and just so grateful for the support. The other thing is, a lot of this, my son is a straight A student. And the one thing for me, as much as I would love to have a beautiful Dodge Charger in the garage, I want to take care of his education for him, a higher education. He's done such an amazing job in high school. So we want to see if we're able to achieve that. So appreciate everyone's support, as it's all going towards him.
He has the Charger. Yeah. Challenger. Yeah.
I want a dark blue one with the Gekko logo on the front hood. And I'd like to not donate, but lend it out for charity and such. But again, first things first, we're going to take care of my son first, and then hopefully have that to celebrate this character for many years there.
I grew up looking at Firebirds and always saying, if I ever got a recreational vehicle just to, because I mean, it's fluff. I'm not really into that. But if I did, I'd get a Firebird. Because as a kid, the bird on the hood, I was just like, I want one of those.
Yeah. All the novelties when we were kids. I laugh at some of the other things I wanted in terms of style. I remember Duran had this crazy black and white jacket that I just always wanted and such. But just 80s had that awesome style. Even Michael Jackson, it was the most embarrassing thing, like being a 10-year-old Italian-American white kid up in upstate New York, but, doing all the Thriller dances and loving the jacket and such. But
we all had
those
the
styles
jacket.
From the 80s still stay with us today. And, the great little dream things to shoot for.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's my.
absolutely.
Well, who didn't want a DeLorean at least once in their life? You know, the
Absolutely.
back because of Back to the Future, everybody looked at a DeLorean and us at least once went like. Then you got to see what it really looked like. Got a little older, you're like, that's kind of ugly. But like, but you know, back then you were like, I want a DeLorean because they're magic and they fly and they go
So
through
awesome.
time.
Such a
They're
good
very,
movie.
oh yeah, very cool. Actually, we had one at a car lot here in Moss Point, Mississippi,
Yeah.
and no one knows where Moss Point, Mississippi is. But I was driving to church and I looked over. It was some kind of luxury car lot or wannabe luxury car lot, and they had a DeLorean inside the showroom. I was like, what?
Yeah.
So yeah, those are very cool cars. But looking back, yeah, they even sounded weird.
Yeah.
Uh, but I know we only got about 10 minutes left. I don't want to keep you too long, but I have to ask about your experience on Angel. You were in episode 20, season 5, in the Rome, Italy episode as a bouncer.
Yeah.
So I'm a Angelaholic. It's one of my guilty pleasure TV shows. I've probably seen every episode at least 2 or 3 times. So I
Yeah.
got to ask you about your experience on that set.
It was awesome. It was also frustrating. My wife worked at Paramount, and it was a beautiful achievement. You know, we were already at that time in Hollywood for about 5 years. My wife worked in video advertising. She's now in the archives at Paramount. So it was really sentimental for my wife to roll out of her office and come right onto the lot and onto the stage and come and watch me perform. It was a bittersweet evening because they were just about to shut down the show.
Yeah.
That episode might be the last ever. And David Greenwald comes over to me, the series director, and he says, God, he says, I wish I knew you sooner because you have just such a great vampire presence. And, you know, just the story of my life in terms of the fact that the show is going off the air. And it was Joss Whedon there as well as Greenwald saying, you know, God, we could have used you throughout this series. And I'm like, son of a bee, I've been busting my butt waiting tables down the street for the last 3 years. But it was a great experience. Bornianis is just another example in terms of being a workaholic. You know, when you come and work for him at any level, you're there to work. I've had the privilege of working with him on Bones as well.
Yes.
I've got a friend of him, of ours, that does the SEAL team. He stars opposite of him. He was in, oh God, the NWA movie there. He played DJ Yella. He was Neil Brown, amazing, amazing actor. But he stars with him there on that SEAL team project. And he's just a pleasure to work with. I had an appearance last year where somebody came up with an encyclopedia, and I had no idea, an Angel encyclopedia, and my name is in the book. She wanted me to sign right by the book. So you're not the only one. There's a lot of Angel fans, but that was a pleasure. I put on a little bit of like an Italian Roman accent and kicked his ass out of the club there, the ancient club.
Oh yeah. It's funny. I brought up the Buffy verse on a previous interview, and I wasn't going to bring it up. But I said I'm the only one that watches the show, and I got a harsh scolding by my co-host Q here, who politely reminded me of everything that I had forgotten about Angel Buffy.
I went down a list of things. Yeah, I was a big Angel fan, and David Boreanaz is. I always thought that like he seemed to be like a really good. He was on my list. We had an episode where we once did a wish list a long time ago, back when he was a bit younger, for like who would make a great Bruce Wayne, and I said David Boreanaz, and everybody's like who, and I was like Angel, and they're like oh, because apparently like I was one of the few people other than Blood Axe who knew his real name, but. I mean, we've actually been having Angel pop up a bit. So we were talking about that Blood Axe is going down, list of people that have been on NCIS and Angel, often both at the same time. That seems to be occurring. So we're just going to try to keep the pattern going. So if you know somebody that's been on both, let us know. We'll just make that our new theme. It's like you have to have been on Buffy or Angel and one of these Law and Order or detective shows, and then you can come on.
Yeah,
and if you can put Star Wars in there too, even better.
That was fun too. You know, of course, Mark Harmon and then LL Cool J. I had the privilege of working on both those shows. And there was the Belisario brothers there. They do an amazing job with they even did JAG and such, and create a lot of work for a lot of the actors in Hollywood there. So just a privilege working on it. We're sacrificing these 2 months because the industry's back. I was fortunate enough to get a couple of shows before I left. One was Days of Our Lives for a really good episode, and then also a great Netflix show called On My Block. They'll be going into season 4. But I told my agent, let's keep the reads open, just because there is doing a making of The Godfather, behind the scenes Godfather series on Paramount TV, to where there was a lot of drama that went down behind the scenes of that film.
I've heard.
So we're still reading, but I would hate to break the tour early. I want to finish it out, and then we'll get back. Well, these cop and guard roles and tough guy roles, I think, will be there for me for another 5 to 10 years. But like I said, we want to go for the gold on this one.
Oh, absolutely. And we'll definitely reach out to our local comic shop and see if we can't get you to swing by with your off day in August. And if we can work it out, I would love to come back up, because I'm actually making a trip next weekend. I live 3 hours away.
Yeah.
But if you're able to come back and we can work that out with the Jackson Comic Shop, then I'll have to make a quicker trip than expected. I'd love to just come shake your hand and thank you and meet you in person. So
I'd be honored. Thank you so much. And yeah, please keep me posted, and I look forward to it there. Thank you.
I'm literally making a note of it now. Like, I put it on my calendar to go talk to him.
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and wrap up the interview here, because your time is precious, and you gave us an hour of it, and we can't thank you enough for it. But Dominic Pace, thank you very much for joining Dicejunkies today. I'll try to get the video up tomorrow, and I will send you a Twitter link so you can share with your audience as well. But is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
No, just again, appreciate everyone's support. I think we've all collectively as a country been through so much dramatically this year. And I hope that it's not only my journey and the journey for my kids, but also to inspire many to just go out there and get it done, and to not make excuses, not blame those who are successful, not make excuses if we fail, but to just go out there and put your neck out. And you never know what could happen, but I believe a lot of good things from doing that.
Hard work.
Amen. I couldn't have said it better. I mean, you're very well worded. Actually, you probably should be a motivational speaker, because I'm about to cry right now. So.
Thank you.
I don't have that much praise, but I really enjoyed having you. You're a cool guy.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you so much, guys.